probability of simple events. I think you guys are going to have an easy week this week. Probability of simple events. Objectives. Students will be able to find the probability of a simple event, understand the distinction between simple events and compound events, and the essential question, how do I find the probability of a simple event? And it should be pretty easy to do this week. Vocabulary, outcome, one possible result of a probability, sample space, the list of all possible outcomes. We talked about this last week. Random, outcomes that occur at random if each outcome is equally likely. Simple event, a specific outcome or type of outcome. And complementary events, the events of one outcome happens and that outcomes not happening are complementary. The sum of the probabilities of complementary events is 1. Here's an example, but I don't want to go through that. So what is the probability or simple events? The probability of a simple event is the chance that some event will happen. It is a ratio of a number of ways of a certain event can occur to the number of possible outcomes. Your answer is always going to be between 0 and 1. Okay, so here's the formula. Probability of an event is the number of favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. Examples that use probabilities: dice, spinners, coins, deck of cards, evens, odds, alphabet, etc. So for example, if I see if I can write on here in red so we can see it. So let's say I had a dice and I wanted to know what I shook this dice and I wanted to know what the probability that it's going to end up on a 2. Well, how many 2s are there? That's the number of favorable outcomes. There's only 1 of them. Number of possible outcomes. There's 6 of those. So the probability of when I toss a dice and I get a 2 is 1 out of 6. The probability, as I said, always has to be between 0 and 100%. Usually we don't write it as a percent. We usually write it as a fraction. Not even a decimal. We always write fractions, simplest terms. 0, the probability, if something has a probability of 0, means it's impossible. It'll never happen. For example, if I toss that dice, the probability of it landing on a 7, it's not going to happen. Probability of 1 means it's always going to happen. So for example, the dice again, what is the probability it's going to end up on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6? Well, it's always going to end up on one of those numbers. So that would be a certain event. 0.5 means it's equally likely, not very likely, somewhat likely. So this is where your answer is always going to be. If you get an answer that's more than 1, you did something wrong. Probability of a simple event. Example, roll a dice. What is the probability of rolling a 4? Well, number of favorable outcomes, there's only 1. Possible outcomes, there's 6. So the probability would be 1/6. Probability of rolling, example 2, what is the probability of rolling an even number? Well, on dice, you've got 2, 4, 6, so there's 3 of them. So the favorable outcomes would be 3 out of 6, or 1/2. Probability of a spinner. What is the probability of a spinner if you spin the spinner and it is green? Well, 1 out of 4. So the number of favorable outcomes is 1. Possible outcomes is 4. So my answer would be 1/4. Probability of flipping a coin. What is the probability of flipping a tail? Well, number of favorable outcomes, 1. Possible outcomes, 2. There's only 1 tail on it. So as you see, they're fairly easy to do. If you have a deck of cards, hopefully you know how many cards are in a deck. What is the probability of picking a heart? Well, 1/4 of them, or 13 out of 52, are hearts. 13 are spades, 13 are clubs, and 13 are diamonds. So the probability of getting a heart would be 13 out of 52, or 1/4. What is the probability of picking a non-heart? Okay, well, the probability of picking a heart is 1/4. The opposite of that would be not picking a heart, which would be 3/4, because it would have to add up to 1. Probability is a chance that some event will happen. It is the ratio of that number of ways a certain event can happen to the total number of possible outcomes. Calculate the probability of each independent event. Probability that is going to end up in a black one. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, so that would be 1/2. Probability of 1, well, there's 1 out of 8. Probability of an odd, well, odd numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7. It looks like it's 1/2. Prime number, well, what's prime? Well, remember, 2 is the first prime number. It is the only even prime number there is. So 2 is the first prime. So we've got 3, 5, and 7 on that list there. So 2, 3, 5, 7. So that would be 4 out of 8, or 1/2. So 4 eighths, 1/8, it's 1/2, 1/2. I'm getting my probabilities right. Calculate the probability of each independent event. Probability of red would be 1/2. Probability of 2, 1/4. Not red, well, that would be 1/2, because being red or not red would be add up to 1, right? Probability of an even, 2, 4, so that's 1/2 also. So there's my answers. I think you're going to have an easy time this week. Please make sure you come to Monday's help session. Not help session, I'm sorry. Monday is our main lesson. Wednesday is a help session. So please come and we'll go through all the practice problems for this week. You guys have a great week. Bye.